Hello everyone, it's Cassie. Welcome back for another Trinity Stamps video. Today we're going to be making an infinity shaker. But before we get into that, let's talk about what we're using. I have the Darling Baby Bottle Shaker, which obviously is perfect for an infinity shaker. And then we're also going to be using our Simply Sentimental Baby. We've got the stamp and the matching die to go along with it. And then I did pull in the Clean Cut Layers A2 Set A. And I also have some sparkle white hearts for our embellishment for the inside. And these are just absolutely stunning. And together we're going to make a gender neutral baby shower card. All right, I did bring in my color cube. This is the piece I used. This is our card that I decided to use because I just loved all these colors together, those blues, and then, flip the card over. You can kind of pick different shades that you want to use together. And that's sort of what I did because I don't have exact colors to match. But I'm so excited with how this turned out. I love it so much. I am going to bring in a piece of cardstock that measures 4¼ by 5½ inches, and I used the third largest from that Clean Cut Layers. Basically, I made a frame, and I'll save the inside piece for another card. But yeah, I just made a frame. And that's all I did with that. We're going to use that later. That's going to cover up our piece for that infinity shaker. For the openings of our baby bottle shaker, I'm going to take the bigger piece and I am going to use this lighter blue cardstock, and I'm going to tack this baby bottle piece down with a little bit of mint tape and run that through my die cutting machine several times in different spots. And this is what I ended up with. And you'll see obviously that baby bottle goes off the sides, which is fine. I do bring in some transparency sheets. I use 2 of them. Any acetate will work. This is what I have on hand. And I have 2 of them. They both measure 4¼ by 5½ inches. So the full front of an A2 size card. And I'll show you why I decided to use 2. I'm going to keep the little tissue paper piece that goes along with it. It'll just make it easier for you to see how I put this all together. But I'm going to go ahead and glue the blue piece down to our first acetate sheet. Just using a little bit of liquid glue. Try not to go too far along the edges because that liquid glue will seep out. And you don't want to have too much of that seeping out. So I'll just line that up on there. It's going to fit perfectly. And then I'm going to need to use the second part of the shaker, the more outlined piece, and we're going to cut out several of those because we need to fill in where I've already die cut. It's such a clever little die set. I think it's cute for making cards obviously, but also to make little baby bottle tags if you wanted. How cute would these be at a baby shower? Just to even have on the table, just sitting around or whatnot. But yeah, so I'll take a little bit of liquid glue and we will put that on the back of those outlines, and then we'll stick those right inside. And so you'll see obviously I need to die cut quite a few more of those just to fill that all in. And I did die cut everything out of white. That worked perfectly for the bottle. And then for the little nipple and the ring, I did that out of white as well so I could color those how I wanted to. I'll go ahead and glue those down and then trim off the excess for what I don't need. See if I can use any of those in other pieces. Turns out I really could not. So just not quite big enough for some of those. So that's all right. We'll just die cut out a few more. And so that's what we're left with. I did stick these pieces down with a little bit of mint tape to another piece just so that I wouldn't have to hold it with my fingers and get my fingers all inky with our alcohol markers. But I'm going to color up 3 of them. I decided that's really all I needed was about 3 of them because for some of those, the top wasn't going to show. So I'll show you what we do there. And I use a couple different oranges for the lid. And then for the nipple, we use just a yellow. So that covers all those colors on that beautiful color cube card that I decided to use. I love this color combo. So pretty. So then we can start assembling. Again, we'll use our liquid glue to adhere everything together. I'll use a fine line at the bottom of the nipple to adhere that to the bottle cap. And then we can attach this down to the front of our card. It's so cute. And the color combo turned out even better just by seeing it on a card itself. I think that's why I love those color cubes so much. So we'll finish up with all 3 of those, kind of deciding where exactly I need to put these. Because once we put that frame on there, some of this is not going to show. So you'll see I put this one there. Obviously I'm going to need to cut down a lot of that. While that's drying, I'll go ahead and put together the last one. That's obvious, that one's going right on that middle one. And I didn't mind if things overlapped a little bit, that was fine. They don't overlap too much. And then I'll trim this one down, and I decide I need to have more showing. So I'm going to take this one, and instead of sticking it there, I'm going to stick it right in here. I feel like that balances things out a little bit better. So we'll stick that one in here, and then trim off the excess of that one. And then our front is just about ready to go. So let's go ahead and put that frame down, and you can see that obviously some of that gets covered. And the reason we want the frame for the infinity shaker is that that's where we can put our foam tape without it showing. And I really do love having things go off the edges. It just gives the illusion that there's more going on outside of the card. It's just more interesting to the eye. So there we go. We have that full piece ready to go. So now we're going to bring in that foam tape that I talked about earlier. And this is the perfect size. You could easily use some of the Trinity Stamps adhesive foam strips. I didn't have enough of those, so I had this stuff in my stash, and it actually worked out perfectly for the frame. So we'll go around all of those. And then on the inside, we just need to basically encapsulate each of those bottles because we want to add the shaker bits to those. You could, of course, just add shaker stuff behind and call it good, but I wanted those shaker bits to stay pretty isolated to the bottles. So I'm going to just go around the edge of each of those bottles and make sure that I've got little wells for the shaker bits. I'm telling you, when Miles is hungry or when he wants attention, he does not care what you're doing. So that's what he's doing right now, trying to get my attention. So I'm giving him little kisses in between. All right, so we've done a good job of that. My next step would be to tell you, make sure that you peel off all of your release paper, because if you put your shaker bits in and then you peel your release paper off, it could pull and cause a lot of those pieces to just go flying everywhere. Ask me how I know. I mean, I still had issues with that stuff flying everywhere, I won't lie, because I was just dumping it. So it was sticking to some of the foam tape on the outside. It's fine. I was able to work it. Using that pickup stick worked out perfectly to get a few of those in there. But again, always, I am probably one of the clumsiest people. Anyway. So yeah, we've got them all good. We're happy. So this is where that second piece of acetate comes in. I'm just going to stick that down on the back so I don't have to worry about making sure that I get the base on there perfectly. And I even have some of that acetate sticking off the side on one end. Just trim it off. Nobody's going to know because it's basically clear, right? So there it is. We've got it all encapsulated, and now we're going to adhere this down to our card base, which is a 5.5 by 8.5 inch piece of white cardstock that I scored at 4.25 inches. So it's a side folding A2 size card. And then you can put your glue wherever the shaker bits aren't showing. And that is how cute that looks. All right, so we've got that all basically ready. Now we need to bring in our sentiment. So once again, I'm using the Simply Sentimental Baby stamp set. And instead of stamping the word baby, I went ahead and die cut that out of black and then the shadow out of some white, just using some reverse tweezers and my liquid glue to adhere all of this down to that shadow. There's so many cute little ways that they have the word baby. I mean, it just works for any card. I love it so much. You know how I love these Simply Sentimentals. I'm obsessed. For the rest of the sentiment, I have a piece of black sentiment stock. I've used my anti-static powder tool on it. I've brought in some juicy embossing ink. I'll stamp that down. Cover that with some detail white embossing powder. And then I will heat set that till that is smooth and melted. And then, yeah, then I'm just going to trim that down with our guillotine trimmer, making sure it's fairly straight. Once I have that ready to go, we'll adhere that down with some liquid glue to the front. Don't want to cover up too many of our pieces there. And I'm obsessed. I'm obsessed. I want to make more of these. And that's going to finish off our card. I love so much how this turned out, and I hope you like it too. I hope you give the Infinity Shaker a try. Let me know, have you played with one before? Is this new to you? Do you plan to try it? Anyway, if you love this video, go ahead and hit that like button. Definitely consider subscribing if you haven't already done so. And as always, I'll see you very soon in another video. Bye, everybody.